Earlier, the US used to establish organizations like the United Nations and abuse them to get things done. Whenever someone would ask it, the US would say it was the United States which did all this. And the United Nations contained all countries of the world. The same was the case with the World Trade Organization. The US would use it to further its economic and trade benefits. However, when it itself broke the rules, it was never punished. But now we have China on the high table, which will make the US comply with all superficially good systems it created. If the US wants every country to play by rules, it must do the same. Recently, China released a comprehensive report on how the US is destroying the multilateral trading system, being a double standard manipulator. This report is a hard slap on the US, exposing it and showing the world what the US really is. So, what does this report say? Welcome back to another exciting episode of our channel. Innovation Diary brings you China's innovation stories, projects, and growing influence in different parts of the world. If you are new to the channel and enjoy learning about fast-paced modernity, especially China's development and growing power, you will definitely find our videos intriguing. In this video, we will tell you how hard China was in its report, suggesting that from now on, the US will follow the very rules it created and forced every country to follow. Let's get started. China's attention has turned decisively towards scrutinizing the United States' adherence to the regulations outlined by the World Trade Organization, or WTO. The assertion that Washington's actions have precipitated disruptions within global supply chains is regarded as a significant move by China, indicative of its growing concerns about the trajectory of trade prospects. The Ministry of Commerce in China has taken a bold step by issuing a report that characterizes the United States with strong language, labeling it a destroyer of the multilateral trading system, a bullying hegemonist, a double-standard manipulator, and a disturber of global industrial and supply chains. Well, it appears that the US did deserve to be called these terms due to decades of breaking WTO laws and regulations. Presenting the report, the ministry emphasized the profound repercussions of the United States' actions, asserting that they have caused considerable upheaval within the multilateral trading system. The ministry demanded the United States abide by the rules, uphold its commitments, and serve as an exemplar as a prominent member of the WTO. You see, China is making the US quite ashamed of what it has been doing for decades. Usually, the US creates international organizations and alliances and forces member countries to follow its rules. However, when it comes to the US, it finds loopholes in those laws. It gets away with them without complying with the laws made for collective benefit. Now, China is playing intelligently and asking the US something simple. If it thinks it's a world leader, why not prove that by giving an example? And that example will be to tell the countries how to follow rules by actually following them. It wants other countries to abide by the rules. That's fine. But it has to set the precedent and be an ordinary country when it comes to choosing rules over its benefits. Hence, China has urged the United States to rectify its actions promptly, adhere to WTO regulations, and actively champion the legitimacy, integrity, and functionality of the multilateral trading system. If it cannot, it must stop proclaiming itself as the world leader and a peacemaker. To be an actual global leader, one has to act like that, which the US is not. The artificial support the US enjoyed for decades will soon fade away if countries get together, urging the US to follow international laws. China has decided to study the breach of the rules and regulations by the US and present them to the relevant organizations. You see, despite China knowing that these organizations are biased, it is still expecting some goodwill. It's because China respects the multipolar world and the organizations which have most of the world's countries. Even if the UN is biased, it has most of the countries as its members, which China respects too. Hence, instead of rejecting the already set system, China has decided to defeat and expose the US with its own created rules. The release of the report aligns with the anticipated visit of Gina Raimondo, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, to China. China's report emerged approximately 6 months after the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative conducted its most recent annual assessment of China's adherence to its WTO commitments. U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai highlighted during this assessment that the review provided a detailed insight into the extent of China's non-market policies and practices. She highlighted the imperative for the international trading system to cohesively safeguard collective interests against these detrimental actions. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos about China's development, power, and influence on the world. Let's continue now. The irony is the US asked China to follow WTO rules in the report, but now it is breaching those rules. The effectiveness of the WTO's appellate body has been hindered since 2019, largely due to the obstacles posed by the United States on new appointments. The Biden administration has taken a more warlike stance by implementing heightened technological restrictions on China, thereby curtailing American investments in Chinese enterprises. It must be asked from the U.S. how these actions are coherent with the fair market rules. If U.S. investors want to invest in China's tech industry, why are they being forced not to invest? The U.S. likes to be called a liberal country, respecting its citizens' rights, but the truth is, it does not care about them at all. The report released by China's Ministry of Commerce raised concerns across a spectrum of domains surrounding U.S. government policies such as tariffs and non-tariff barriers, trade remedies, technical regulations, export controls, and economic sanctions. The ministry exposed the United States and said that it arbitrarily heightened import tariffs, misused export control mechanisms, dispensed discriminatory subsidies, endorsed industrial and supply chain decoupling, and engaged in economic coercion against China. This report is quite opposite to China's history of ignoring the U.S. actions. In the past, China only focused on its economy, and today this economy has brought every power China needs. Hence, it becomes China's duty to take notice of unacceptable things the U.S. is doing. Through the unveiling of this comprehensive report, China has launched a methodical and exhaustive examination of the United States' adherence to WTO rules. These concerns span a spectrum of actions ranging from the imposition of unilateral sanctions to the application of dual standards in shaping industrial policies and actions that disrupt the global industrial and supply chains. An important aspect highlighted by the report shows how the U.S. is systematically and structurally making the WTO dysfunctional when it comes to hearing cases against the U.S. The report said that the U.S. is refusing to initiate the selection process for new judges for the non-operational appellate body of the WTO, which has been dysfunctional since December 2019 due to a lack of judges. It turns out that the U.S. is doing so deliberately. If the judges are selected, they would hear cases against the U.S.'s ongoing chip war with China and the sanctions it has imposed on tens of countries. The report also delves into the consistent pattern of the United States imposing unilateral sanctions, often justified under the banners of national security, human rights, and compelled technology transfer. The document sheds light on how the U.S. exerts pressure on other nations to align with its preferences and meet its demands. Additionally, the U.S. deploys selective and discriminatory subsidy policies, alongside measures such as export controls that disrupt the developmental trajectory of other countries. The report offers further insights into the United States decoupling from China, dismantling global industrial and supply chains, and encouraging the relocation of industries through the imposition of unilateral tariffs. The United States' pursuit of shaping industrial and supply chains is primarily oriented around its own interests, accompanied by its endorsement of friendly shoring outsourcing under the umbrella of shared values. It appears that the U.S. has a history of violating rules and not complying with the verdicts WTO gave against it. In 2020, the World Trade Organization gave a verdict against the U.S. on imposing supplementary tariffs on Chinese goods. The panel, consisting of 3 seasoned WTO trade experts, arrived at a unanimous conclusion that Washington traversed beyond the boundaries of global regulations by imposing tariffs exceeding $200 billion on Chinese goods in 2018. But guess what? In response, the U.S. lashed out at WTO and called the verdict unfair. Not only that, but after over 3 years of the verdict, tariffs on Chinese goods are the same and the U.S. never complied with the verdict. When the U.S. initiated the chip war, China decided to follow the rules and went to the WTO against the U.S.'s unfair actions. But again, the U.S. said that sanctions on chip exports were due to national security. It was also hinted that even if WTO gave a verdict against the U.S., the latter won't follow it at all. This quite proves how the U.S. is the destroyer of the multilateral trading system and fair market. However, China will not accept that and make the U.S. either comply with the verdicts or leave the chair of the global leader. We would like to take a moment to appreciate you all for commenting and sharing your opinions. Your insights always impress us.